Spider-Man is just around the corner, the release date is fast upon us, and as the official spoiler season is about to begin, it's time to take a look back before you pre-order any high-priced cards. How do the products we've seen in the past hold up today with the release schedule that Wizards of the Coast has been giving us? We're going to take a look at Final Fantasy, we're taking a look at Tarkir Dragonstorm. Stay tuned. At this time of year, many Magic players start to feel wallet fatigue set in. We've had a very fast schedule this year, we've had higher prices with less product with the Play Booster box, and we've also had these Universes Beyond products start to become integrated into the system. How do those singles hold up? What's happening with the sealed? And now we've got Spider-Man right around the corner, so before we buy it, it's best to take a look to see what the market has decided upon with the value of these cards. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here, and thank you again for hanging out today for another video. Now, when we look at something like Spider-Man, we know Universes Beyond, high-priced IP, you are going to be spending a pretty penny to get your hands on sealed product. Now, we also know that if they give us more of these Infinity Stones, or if they're really hard to find, or the variant cards, we know there's going to be a lot of this product open. There's a lot of whales out there who can afford to just tear through this stuff like Christmas Day when you were a kid. But that doesn't mean that you have to go out there and buy every single box to buy every single single. You can go and see how these singles have held up over time. And you know what? Based on playability and how hard they are to find and future value, because a lot of people speculate on these things and that holds values up, it gives you an indicator of whether you should be buying the stuff or letting it sit for a while and letting the market really kind of gel with the cards first to see where they fall. Let's not forget that in most cases, other than variant cards in the more recent sets, we seem to have a ceiling of around $100 for new sets. That just seems to be the rough ceiling of any card. Cards like Shield of the Apocalypse and the like, even the Orcish Bowmasters, all those kinds of cards, when they first came out, they couldn't really breach that certain level. The ceiling is in place to prevent it, so that's the most you're going to pay for some high-priced single that you may not even get in a box if you were looking. So it never hurts to wait a minute. I'm not saying it's not exciting to open a box and crack in there, and let's face it, there's a lot of Spider-Man fans out there. But if we look at the sets we've just had, Tarkir Dragonstorm, a hugely popular set. Final Fantasy, next level, insanity. How are those products holding up with some of the singles? What's happening on the market? I want to share this stuff. We're going to start here first with Tarkir Dragonstorm, okay? So if you look here, here's a card, Ugin, the Eye of Storms, right? I love the card, okay? I use it many times over. But when we look at the pre-order price, remember when this thing was $100 and people were paying it, okay? Don't forget, there's like 50, 60 sales. I did videos covering this stuff. It was crazy for Tarkir Dragonstorm that people thought this was the next huge card, and he is amazing, don't get me wrong. And we've seen a whole bunch of colorless cards come into play for Standard, so it had a lot of value. But when we see what's going on with the card and the value now, we can see this thing's down to like $27, and it's still sinking. Yeah, he's a 7 casting cost beast, but of course, whenever you cast this spell, exile up to 1 target permanent, remember, it doesn't have to succeed. At least lets you exile something. Then gaining life and drawing cards is always nice. The -11 is amazing, and adding mana is always pretty good. Now, of course, this is going to find a home inside Commander, and there'll probably be some moderated rebound value at some point around the $30 mark, but players have decided this isn't a $100 card. It gets eliminated, it gets taken out pretty easily by the way Wizards has created the playscape around us with all kinds of ways of dealing with planeswalkers nowadays. So there's no reason for this card to be super high priced, but at the same time, he's not a bargain basement $2 card, is he? He's a pretty decent guy to have around. Now, if we jump over though and take a look at something like Elspeth the Stormslayer, this card came in around $40, $50, and it stayed pretty consistent. Yeah, we've seen a bit of a loss of value on the card. It's below the $40 mark. Just like Ugin, it's finding its new value level for players. As a 5 casting cost, it's got some pretty powerful abilities attached to it. This thing is all over in Standard, and there's a lot of times you look at this card, and if you don't have an answer, you're in trouble. But like Ugin, there are ways of dealing with cards like this, so it's always good to keep in mind that the value will be moderated by the playability of the card. So Tarkir Dragonstorm, we're looking at some of these cards, you can see the value of many of the cards, if you looked, would kind of shift down a bit over time, as is expected. We're not saying these cards have to be super high priced and expensive, but sometimes you get failure on the next level. In that case, we're talking about Mox Jasper. Now, we know We all were there when I did those videos covering that people were pre-ordering this card at $100. And we knew from things like Mox Tantalite that the value has to be there for the playability factor. Now, if we take a closer look, of course, at the card, you can see 0 casting cost, legendary artifacts, add 1 mana of any color, activate only if you control a dragon. That is a very limited ability, okay? Without shapeshifters and changelings in there, or some other way of getting a dragon, this isn't really going to help you that much. It's okay. It can be played in standard, but we'd need some 1 casting cost, either dragon or changeling, to really activate the card in standard. Yes, it can find a home in Dragon Commander, absolutely, but because it's only being found in certain ways like that, you're not going to see a lot of value attached to the card. You've got to find a way of breaking it or making it truly powerful like a Mox Amber, and that's unlikely to happen in the current playscape environment we're in. So the market has decided that this card, although it's not completely worthless because there's some speculation about the future, right now it doesn't have a home. And when we look at this, if they had made it not legendary, that may have been a different storyline, but that's not what's happened. This card is what it is. It carries the Mox name, but not the Mox power level at this time. Now, let's jump over and take a look at what's going on with Final Fantasy singles. Guys, this is where things get next level. Tarkir Dragonstorm is doing amazing. The single market is very vibrant, very active. Final Fantasy is on a different plane of existence. There are so many cards of value that are holding up in these $30, $40, $50 ranges. Because of how they can be played and they're inside standard, it really does look like Final Fantasy was put on the next level. This is a high-powered set that is going to connect all the other sets to it, which means all the synergies will come from Final Fantasy and branch out into the upcoming sets, making Final Fantasy a key set to hold on to. It means the singles are likely going to hold a lot of value for a very long time. When we look at the values of cards like this and you see them go up, you're like, these are still $40, $50 cards, even with Spider-Man approaching, and there's just so many of them, not to mention the variants, the Surge Foils, Sephiroth, the Fabled Soldier, over $1,000. We've covered videos and content like this, and you can look at them and just say, it's insane. Now, the good news, if you look at Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier, just the regular edition, yeah, less than $50, very highly playable card, a lot of good stuff going on. Yes, he's still expensive, of course, but he's a low casting cost with a lot of power attached to him, and this is what makes him valuable. He is playable. He is desirable. They are going to keep trying to get this bad boy into their deck if they can, but we have a shortage. We'll talk about that at the end. Now, if we jump over here also, and you look at cards like this, we got to remember $30, $40, $50, yeah, that's still an expensive card for standard. I'm not going to argue that, okay? But when we're looking at playing competitively, that's what it can take to do that, okay? You're not playing casually. You're trying to build a deck that's going to take people out. Now, the singles market for both of these products is very healthy, okay? Final Fantasy is way ahead of the game, don't get me wrong, but they are healthy markets with tons of sales week over week. Things get a little bit different of a conversation. They take a different avenue path when we talk about what's going on with sealed product. When we're looking to go into a store and buy some packs, and you walk in and their shelves are bare, and you ask them, hey, do you have any Tarkir Dragonstorm? You got some Bloomburrow? Oh, you've only got some Aether Drift? Not even Karlov Manor, just some Aether Drift on the shelf. Well, how? Oh, you can't get any? You can't get your hands on some? Now, I'm not talking every store, but there's a lot of them out there, guys, that do not have the product. They don't know when they're going to get it. They've got it in queue. They're waiting to hear from distribution when these things are going to show up. This is where things are different from what Wizards of the Coast has done in the past. Overprinting doesn't seem to be a thing right now. They're keeping it very tight. We've talked about this. The problem is, when you keep it this tight, it's going to build resentment from those who would like to buy some packs. It's going to build a little frustration, a little anger. Kind of like a little ember burning in the corner. You're hoping it doesn't catch fire and burn down all the goodwill you've done by putting together such a fabulous product lineup. You know, when we think of Spider-Man, are we seriously going to sell out right away? Are we going to run out of this product the first week and have to wait months to get it back in stock? Do Wizards print enough for everyone to get in there? Are stores even ordering enough to meet demand when it does arrive? These are all questions that can't be answered yet. But when we're looking at what's happened with Final Fantasy, packs are still being bought with stores that still have it. Tarkir Dragonstorm, Bloomburrow, guys, every product, Dustmore, they're still being opened. They're still being purchased. Players are still having a good time, especially on Friday nights, a Saturday, F&M. You're just having a good time. A few packs get opened. It's your chill. It's your hobby. But if you can't find it, like I said, that's a different story that is going to have to be addressed at some point by Wizards of the Coast. I'm not saying mass overprinting. Stores aren't going to carry it. They don't want it on their shelves and have whole back stock that they can't move, and then stores go out of business. That's not the name of the game. Stores have really been good about maintaining what the players want, what they carry in the store. But then when the store runs out, being able to restock should be a possibility. You shouldn't have to wonder if you can ever get product in your store again before the next release comes and gobbles up your funds, which is going to be Spider-Man and Avatar. Guys, this is an interesting thing to see happen across the board, but it definitely lets us know that Wizards of the Coast has branched this out, which means the value of the cards seems to be holding. Yes, it's being readjusted and reevaluated by players based on playability, but at the same time, it's available. The collectors are happy with their variants and expensive high-end cards. You got a lot of players blinging out decks with particular surge foils or variants that they enjoy, and the players who just want to get a base copy to get in there and play, they have their door as well that they can open up and say, yep, I'm going to save 50 cents on the dollar purchasing the same card because I don't need a fancy artwork, but I need that card to be competitive and standard. I need this card for my commander deck to ramp it up to the next level. That's available. And that tells us that Spider-Man and Avatar cards are going to have that same type of playability and value attached to them. Maybe not for every single player based on what you're building, but chances are Wizards isn't going to have any burnout sets. They're not going to do it on purpose and try to burn it to the ground as a horrible set. They've learned, they've moved on. Yes, it's a big ship to turn, but it looks like they're still on the right path other than the pricing, which still drives me insane. And of course, the availability of the cards when you want to order either singles or, of course, sealed product for your store just so players can crack some packs. Guys, what do you think? Drop some comments in the comments section. Share it with me. It's awesome. I can't wait for upcoming sets, but this is becoming a real problem that Wizards is going to have to address. Thanks again. See you tomorrow. You know, here at the end of the video, where we get a chance to thank all the amazing patrons of the channel, I just want to take a side minute note to say even I couldn't find Tarkir Dragonstorm this weekend. I went looking. They didn't have any. Because I wanted to get a couple of singles, which of course weren't in stock, and I thought maybe I'll open some packs, just have some fun on my live stream, and I couldn't get my hands on it. So it's very funny to see that even I can't get it when I'm looking for it. Either way, thanks again to my patrons. See you all tomorrow. Welcome back to the Ramble and the Jamble. Ramble and the Jamble. We're back again. We're here. We're at the end. You got a chair, you're pulled up, you got a coffee, got a pop, maybe a beer, whatever's floating your boat right now, whatever makes you feel that you just want to chill out here and hang out with me, I'm good with that. I have my water, which is like almost on empty, but that's okay. Lots of fuel in the tank. So here's what's going on. In my brain, I think about the value of all these singles. I looked at past sets. I'm going back a couple of years. The cards under the new regime of how Wizards of the Coast are presenting them are holding up far better than I would have expected. These cards are up 40-50% on previous set designs. I'm attributing that to the lower quantity of stock available of the products. You can't open as many. It's a higher price. People don't want to cash in, their RSPs or their 401ks to try to open a box of Magic hoping to get the card they want. They'll just buy it even at a higher price on the singles market. They'll take the chance. That being said, because of how that's all working, we are seeing prices hold up higher, which actually benefits Wizards of the Coast in ways you don't even want to know. Because if these things go to reprint, they're going into specialty products. And if you notice, the sets they're giving us, the cards they're giving us within these sets that are holding higher value are all reprint targets. Absolutely. But they can do this for another year or two, and they can build up some real equity in some of these cards based on Standard and Commander. You throw in Pioneer and Brawl. You throw in things like Two-Headed Giant combo deck. You throw in all the different formats we enjoy playing, and we've got a whole different, baked good that everyone's going to want to get their hands on when these things do get reprinted. I wonder what they'll name it. Ultimate Masters 5. I don't know. Crazy. Guys, thanks a lot. Thanks for hanging. Chill. Have a good one. My brain will not explode thinking about how much those things are going to cost. Ramble and jamble.